This
run.
conference will now be recorded.
Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.
Can you hear me? I'm hearing a lot of feedback. Am I coming through clear?
You are here.
Okay. Those of you that are here, thank you for attending. Stacy, I'm going to mute you for a minute until I turn this over to you. Okay. The Accessible Voting Advisory Committee is set up. Every county has one related to elections. And normally it meets at least once a year. In 19, with everything that Debbie had going on in her last year, she didn't convene a meeting. And in 20, with everything I had going on in 20, I didn't convene a meeting. So it's been 2 years since this committee has met.
Okay.
The intention of this group is for us to be aware of accessibility issues and put together plans for how we can address those. So the accessibility can be for any group. It could be for the elderly. It can be for those who are sight impaired, if they have physical challenges, being able to fill out a ballot, how they're able to read if they have low vision. Are they able to read the ballot? Are they able to read the web page? And so all of those things are on the table, you know, and it also includes being able to get into the office. And it's focused on, this particular accessibility group is focused on, are we giving people the tools they need so they can vote successfully? So with that, it looks like we've had some other people join. So I want to go around the table, so to speak, go around the group, introduce yourselves and what organization you're representing, and then we'll move on with our agenda. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Diana Bradrick. I'm the county auditor. And prior to being auditor, I was the chief deputy with Debbie Adelstein for 7 years. So Amy, you're next on my screen. You want to introduce yourself?
Supervisor.
Kelly?
Hi, I'm Kelly. I'm the office coordinator.
Hey Diana, too.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping, since I'm new to this committee, as many of us are new, I think it would be good to state your name and what agency you represent, and if you are a new member or if you're an existing member.
Okay, that would be good. Can we hold on just a minute? Kim Brown. Kelly, Kim Brown put a chat in that there is no sound. Can you deal with that chat and see if you can help get their sound? They may have not selected computer audio or something. Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
I'll chat with her.
Okay, Stacy. So Stacy, you're up next.
Okay, well, Stacy Henthorn, and I am the Chief Deputy Auditor. I've worked here at the county for about 18 years, so new to elections.
Nicole?
Oh, I'm Nicole, and I'm election clerk. I answer the phones and process registrations.
David?
I'm David Engebretson. I'm Digital Technologies Accessibility Coordinator at Western Washington University.
And Kim?
While we wait for Kim, can I tell you something that's a
You
little bit
can.
ironic? The GoToMeeting platform is not accessible to people using screen readers.
Oh, good heavens. Well, okay, there you go. There's our first thing. Does
Yeah.
Zoom work, David? Because our next we don't use Zoom as much, but we have access to it. Is that better?
Yes, much,
Okay.
much better. Thank you.
Thank you for that feedback, and we won't do this again. We will set it up on Zoom next time. Did we get Kim? Did we get Kim working now?
I'm trying to send her some info.
Okay. Moving on to Dan
My name is Daniel Brooker Bowling, and I'm also an election clerk for Whatcom County.
and Cam.
Cam Kirsten. I'm representing the League of Women Voters. This is my first time here, but I've worked with the auditor's office closely in the last couple of years.
Aggie.
Hi, I'm Aggie Petalo, and I'm also an elections clerk.
Okay, and I'm sorry, the person on the phone is, I've forgotten your name already. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Leo?
Leo. Leo, can you introduce yourself? Okay, well, Cleo's not responding. How are we doing with Kim? Is Kim able to get audio?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, and I have not participated as part of this committee before, but I'm the City of Bellingham ADA coordinator.
That's great. Okay. So I'm going to turn this over to Stacy. We do have the agenda up, but for those, I don't see Cleo here anymore. She's on the phone, I think.
She's caller number 1.
Okay. We'll read through the agenda, not given that screen reader does not work with GoToMeeting, which is not helpful, and we didn't know that. We're not going to do this again. Stacy, take it away with our second agenda item.
Okay, well, the second agenda item is the review of the 2020 election season, and we just wanted to reach out to everybody and let us ask you, how did we do? We did have 4 elections this past year, and we have, I mean, it was a busy year with COVID. We did partner with the league for the temporary ballot boxes at retirement homes, and we added the webcams for the observers so that they didn't have to come into the office. I think that the feedback that we got so far from the public was that was very helpful. So any other feedback?
How did people feel about the election season in terms of information that went out and accessibility? Did people get the information they needed in the way that they needed it? Comments from anybody?
I tried to raise my hand. This is David Engebretson again.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been using personal resources to help me fill out my ballot because I don't have digital access to a ballot. And to me, as someone who uses digital technologies all of the time, that's what I need to vote with equity.
So when you talk about digital access, how are you defining that, David?
Well, either either email or a web page to be able to fill out my own ballot because I'm pencil impaired, so as a blind person, so I can't fill my ballot out by myself, and I could come down to the auditor's office, but this year, of course, um, well, I I've been isolated since March 2020, so I'm not haven't gone anywhere really except to get my vaccine. But so for me, what would work best is to be able to fill out a report or my ballot online.
But, okay, so VoteWall has the ability to fill out the ballot online, but I think the challenge is you have to be able to print it out and sign the affidavit.
Yes, and
Right,
another issue with that is I don't have a printer
right.
because
Okay, I just wanted to make, yeah,
yeah,
I wanted to make sure I was capturing, because we've talked about this before, and the
yeah,
auditors are aware of this as an ongoing concern, and they, we've been wanting to look at ways that in fact the whole thing could be done electronically, and our and accessibility is one of the reasons that we'd like to be able to do that, not just for the overseas voters, but also as an accessible measure.
hmm
And it's it's being worked on, but it's one of those where they're just not ready to do that yet, and the Homeland Security is, they don't even like it that ballots get emailed in.
yeah,
So we're very sensitive to that because I know what a huge challenge that is. And I think lots of people don't have printers anymore. I hear that all the time, well, they can't just use VoteWall because they don't have a printer. They have a computer, but they don't have a printer.
yeah,
So that continues to be at the top of our list, for accessibility, is what we do for people that don't have a printer, can't print it out, can't see to sign it, and how do we serve that population?
yep. And there are digital ways to sign documents, but those also have accessibility problems. So there,
We have been taking a look at, another discussion item for the last couple of years is alternatives to using handwritten signatures, not only as an accessibility issue, but the the sort of art of having to check signatures. It's like, is there a better way to do this? So that
mm,
also is on the list of discussions about what can we do to allow people to, quote, sign without it having to be a handwritten signature.
yeah, and I can
Other,
help. I, I'm sorry to interrupt. I can help with further evaluation of that too, because I deal with that at uh, Western quite often too. Is how to digitally sign contracts so everybody has um, the ability to do that with equity. And DocuSign is one of the more accessible approaches that we
and
use.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something that hadn't occurred to me until you said that might be a solution to this issue. It's certainly, DocuSign is being used more widely with COVID. I mean, a lot of the paperwork at the county now is being routed and signed electronically because people aren't working in their offices, and we're getting documents from the districts sometimes that have been signed like that. So that's, Kelly, are you capturing this in the minutes? Thank you. That put DocuSign down as an alternative, or other forms of applying signatures like that. Okay, I have unmuted Cleo.
Oh,
Cleo,
have
are you
you?
still here?
Can you
Yes,
hear
I
me?
unmuted. We can. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yay! I'm here. I'm here. Okay, so I'm Cleo Richard, and I believe I'm representing the senior center because Chris Orr called me and asked me to do it, and he's with the senior center. And also, I've worked elections, and I'm very happy to be here. And thank you for unmuting me. Yay!
Well, you're welcome. Sorry for the technical. We've used GoToMeeting a lot, but it's still not quite a perfect process here.
It's all right.
Other input from people about how things worked or what might have helped?
I have a question. It's Cleo. Diana, when you were kind of saying the goals of the committee and so on, to be aware of accessibility issues to voting. So does that include registering to vote as well?
Yes.
Or just all of the above?
It's all of how we serve voters. It's
Okay.
registering, it's letting them be able to effectively vote, get their ballot returned, all of those things.
Okay. Well, because of COVID, I was going to look into some of that last year at the senior center, but because of COVID, I couldn't. So I don't know when the senior center will open and we can kind of assess that information more. I still think that there are people out there who really don't know how to vote, even if they're registered, even if they receive the ballot in the mail. It's just because I've worked with voting and stuff for so many years in different states and so on, that has come up over and over and over again. And that was one of the things I wanted to do there, was to have, like a little class on how to vote and practice voting and that sort of thing. So I don't know, but I believe it's out there. So
I think outreach definitely is one of the issues, and what do we need to do either to educate voters or to get the word out or to make sure they've got the tools. So that's all included. And the elderly are, one of our target groups, because they might be housebound. They could be living in a assisted living facility. It's the same thing. It's like, how do the ballot gets mailed to them, but if they have, my father had palsy really bad. So for him to hold a pen or a pencil and be able to fill in an oval it was just not, it wasn't on the cards, right? He wasn't able to do that. So he was going to have to get somebody to help him vote. And he wasn't mobile enough to go into the county office to vote on an AVU. So then what? Now, at that time, ballots weren't available online, and he did have a computer and a printer, but not everybody does. So
right.
those are our concerns. And are there things we can do in terms of outreach or education that are going to be helpful?
Well, another Cleo again. Some things I've done for the senior centers, I've done several Zoom programs about self-care, and they're doing some other Zoom programs. Now, people who have a computer or who can get access to that is one way we could do education about registering to vote, how to vote on the ballot. It just depends on what technical equipment people have at home. And I have heard that the library may open again soon, and they have computers. I don't know if that would be appropriate for a patron to sit at a library computer and attend such a class, or maybe it would be extremely beneficial for anybody who heard it. So those are some suggestions.
Okay, those are good.
Diana, this is Pam. And Cleo, I'd like to speak some time with you more. The League is doing some outreach with our high schools, and we're going to be working with with civics education. But I have also a need, I believe, that we need to be reaching out and educating our seniors or any adult with voting. So would like to do an online or in person or Zoom or whatever education class, whatever we want to call it, but something to help those people. So I'd be interested in working or talking with you more. And I know I spoke to Diana about this at one time, and so I think we could really work on something that would be helpful.
Sure. Oh, I would be glad to. No problem. Sure.
Yeah, great. And I think the library is trying to open the end of June or first part of June. I was in a meeting the other day and that came up. And they have an area, or used to have an area there where they would have small classes in different things. So that might be an option for us too.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I mean, it's not secret information when we're talking to people, and a public person, if they heard it in the library, like I said, it might be beneficial because they may not have known.
Yeah. I agree with you. I would love to talk further with you, and we're discussing that right now with the League.
Okay. And this is Kim, right? You said Kim from the League of Women Voters.
CAM. C-A-M.
C-A-M. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
That's okay. It's easy to confuse.
Well, it's this. Everybody's words are a little bit fuzzy. Thank you.
So one thing that, maybe could be done in conjunction with the libraries for people who don't have computers at home would be training on, there could even be a class on registering to vote. And they could do it through VoteWa on the library computers and get registered and have a little training session on how you get to your information in VoteWa. And, that's a possibility as well.
I think the Goodwill would work with us in that area too, Diana.
Oh, good idea.
Yeah, I talked to Bede before the pandemic, and we were hoping to do that. It didn't happen last year.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah. Okay. And in addition to the senior center, it's Cleo again. There are multiple senior residents.
Yes.
Maybe those would be good to tap into, like Wood Rose and Vintage. And most of them have some sort of room, community room or whatever. And maybe that could work too.
Yeah.
Well, this kind of leads into the next topic is what does your community need help with? And the first topic on here is video training. So we have added candidate training videos and a PDF version on filing for office and then how to submit your candidate statement. But I'm thinking that maybe we need to add a training topic on registering to vote.
Yep, good idea.
I agree.
I think Jacob in the chat had asked if if there's ever been a video showing how to vote. Whatcom has not had one, but we've talked about doing it, and it's on our list. We're wanting to expand the use of videos online to sort of walk people through things. And also, it could be something, once we put one together, it could be used with senior centers, in the libraries, group homes, those kinds of things. So aside from how to vote, how to register, what other topics would be good for video training?
This is David Engebretson again.
Mhm.
I'm hoping that you'll make sure to put captions on the videos so that they're fully accessible to the deaf.
Good point. Thank you, David. Because we might have missed that one.
Yeah, that's not a good one to miss.
No.
Yeah.
But also, if there is, when you're creating the videos, if you make sure that the script has descriptive language in it, so the person that's offering up the video content, they describe what's happening visually on the screen, then you don't need to spend the dollars to create audio description so the blind can also access the video.
Okay. We may be reaching out to you to help us with that once we
Oh,
start putting this stuff together.
absolutely. I mean, that's why I'm here.
That's great. Diana, Snohomish County League has a video that you might want to look at and would be a good start. I think it's missing the pieces, though, that for the blind and things like that. So I think it needs some work on it, but it might be a good start because we were going to look at that and use it, make some changes and make our own.
We do have some resources here at Western too to be able to help with that. We've spent quite a bit of effort to make sure all of our video content is accessible to the blind and the deaf, and what's cool about creating accessible videos to everybody is that it's also more accessible to people who don't have disabilities. So you know if someone's in a crowded place where they can't listen to the video content, then they can read the captions.
Yeah.
Or audio description often can provide information to people who may be cognitively impaired so that they can understand the video content better.
Okay. All good points.
That's a great suggestion, yeah.
Kelly, are you watching the chat? There were a couple of suggestions from Jacob in there that I wanted to capture.
Yeah, I'm capturing all the chat that's going on.
Okay, good. So one of the video training topics that we had on our list after last year's election cycle and the narrative about distrust in the process, which partly stems, we think, from people not knowing what the process is. If they don't come in and observe, voting is a bit of a black box. They know that they vote the ballot and they put it in the mail or a drop box, but they don't know what we do with it afterwards, really. And then magic happens here and the votes get counted, right? So we've talked about wanting to do a workflow of what happens to your ballot from the day that you receive it in the mail all the way through certification. What do people think about that? Would that be helpful?
Yes, I think so. I think that'd be a great one, Diana. I think anything to take away what people think is you're secretly doing with that ballot.
I agree. Yeah, promoting transparency is
Yeah.
super important because there's lots of information out there that may or may not be true, and we want our voters to know that.
Hi, this is Cleo. I got muted again.
You did. I'm getting feedback from your phone, so I was just at the point of unmuting you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Oh, I'm unmuted now? I'm terribly sorry.
You're unmuted now, so comments?
Yes, but I interrupted David. I'm sorry, David.
Oh, no problem. I think I was done.
Okay. I wanted to dovetail into what David said about the videos and so on, and what you're saying right now is when the videos are created to register to vote, there may be a need to create them, like David was talking about, for different populations of people. And my suggestion is once they're created, then test them with a group of those people. So, you said you're going to be in contact with David for his group, and maybe adolescents would be another group. So you see what I'm saying? You field test it with the people it's designed for.
Absolutely.
And usually you can get really good feedback. And I agree about a video about what happens to this ballot. Even though people could watch the process. I mean, they didn't get lots of details, but they could watch it. They could watch us with the ballots. I think that was great.
We know that there are some when we duplicate a ballot and why is a bit of a mystery to people, and adjudication. People don't understand about adjudication. They don't necessarily know. Some people know we check all the signatures, some don't. But they don't, if they understand about signature verification, they may have the idea that one person has looked at the signature and challenged the ballot, and that's the end of it. When in fact, multiple people maybe review those. So there are some of those things where we see concern around the process that we think would help for us to do either. We may do one video of workflow and then break out some individual pieces that need more information. But other topics aside from that, so we talked about workflow, we've talked about how to register, we've talked about how to actually vote and make sure your vote gets counted. What else would be helpful if we could do it with a video, with closed captioning, with all of the accessible things that everybody needs? What else would help?
I think it would be cool. Sorry, this is David again. I think it would be cool to create a video that shows how to use the accessible voting stations in your office.
Okay, that's a good one.
Maybe another suggestion, this is Cleo, is how can you tell if you're looking at the official website?
Oh.
Because as I recall last year, there was a bogus website up.
Internet security. Oh boy.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah, all of those things. I mean, it may be that we do one just talking about, what we do for security, because, I mean, there's a limit to how much you expose about what your security system is, but actual security is. But talking to people about the count center isn't connected to the internet, for example. And, I tell people that some people are surprised about that because they think, well, how do we know somebody's not coming in and hacking into the count system? Well, they can't because it's not networked. The election center is a vault. It requires 2 staff people on a monitored lock system. They don't know that necessarily. So talking about those for people that are concerned about election security might be helpful. I like the accessible voting unit one though. That's a good one. It does a lot of different things.
It would be great to, this is Kim speaking. I think it would be great to have a link that I'd like to put it on the city's accessibility webpage that would just go directly to the page on the Whatcom County voter webpage with the various links to the videos or whatnot.
Okay,
Just so it's a one-stop shop.
that's good. Do people know about the accessible voting unit? That's a question. We put it's in the voter guide. It's in the insert. Every place we talk about voting, we talk about there being an accessible voting unit, but again, if English isn't your first language or you're sight impaired, so maybe you're not reading through the voter guide or the instructions that come with the ballot. Do we have the word out there that there's accessible voting units available?
I don't know. It's Clue. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. This is Cam. I think, yeah, I think that probably needs some work on it.
That's, that's something to think about, how we make sure that people know it's there and it's available. It's available as a touch screen for people that may have trouble with fine motor skills. It's available with audio for people that may have limited sight or no sight. Just people that need it in large print.
So they have to come into your office to use it.
They do. Mm-hmm.
Because I was going to say that might be something to let our senior centers and some of the residents with our older population, many of them have vans and take their people out to places. That might be something to think about if we could coordinate something for them if they thought that was useful.
We've also talked about having a mobile unit available. Could we have them and schedule them into group homes?
That'd be good.
But I think, Amy, I'm thinking there are some technical complications with just taking that around, but I can't remember all the issues around it. Amy, is that the case?
There's just the minor issue of issuing the ballot label and putting the label on the envelope.
This is Jacob from Western, and yes. I was wondering. So what I'm hearing you guys say that there are some ways for folks who need like larger font, larger print, different types of formats that might be useful. Have you talked potentially with anybody at the Whatcom County Library System, because they have a bookmobile that goes all over the county, and they may be able to have like some assistance during times when they're like at their various areas to help folks that are looking to vote?
We haven't. I knew there was a reason. We had talked before about having the accessible voting units, maybe scheduling them into assisted living facilities
Mhm.
for half a day, but that's why I asked Amy, because I thought there was a technical issue with that. Normally, when somebody comes into our office and they want to use the AVU, the accessible voting unit, we issue, there's a process for
Mhm.
checking them in and having them sign the declaration, and we issue a ballot label that
Yeah.
goes on the envelope before they vote. So
Mhm.
while the equipment to vote on is portable, the other piece of it needs some thought, because you have to have access into VoteWa to do that. And that's, we've talked about doing this before, and that was always the thing that stopped us from just sort of carrying it around to various places, is that there's no way to get into VoteWa and get the voter record and the label.
Yeah.
So
Okay, I see what you're saying.
it needs some more discussion.
Yeah.
So this is David again, and I know Jacob from Western, but I didn't hear his introduction. Can you introduce yourself, Jacob?
Yeah, sorry, I jumped in a little later. I didn't know we were
Okay.
doing introductions. So I'm Jacob Kinzer. I work as the program supervisor, program support supervisor, and alternative textbook formatting manager at Western Washington University's Disability Access Center.
And I do think that it's important for us as the Accessible Voting Advisory Committee to consider the Disability Access Center as a valuable resource for young people who are
Yep.
disabled and having trouble voting. So, I mean, let's keep Jacob around, okay?
Addition.
I think that's good.
Sorry.
You know,
Additionally, I am also in a wheelchair, so I have a little bit of knowledge for that as well. So I bring a little bit additional
Yeah,
accessibility to the table.
empathy, right?
well, and
Oh, I was thinking logistics.
all the outreach that we've been doing at the university and the work that the league does with the university students, that's, it's important that we keep the accessibility plugged in as well.
This is Cleo. I'm not sure about this, but what about tapping into the housing authority, because they work with facilities for disability and things like that? That might be another, because there's different kinds of residences that they manage and know about.
Right.
Well, this is Jacob again, and along those lines, if you're doing that, you might be able to tap into government departments like the Department of Vocational and Rehabilitation, Disability Services for the Blind, may be also very helpful in getting people with that are blind or vision impaired. Also, I know that there is a deaf and hard of hearing branch as well that may be able to help foster some of the ideas, and they may even have folks who can get access to machinery that can get the voting labels that you guys were talking about earlier.
Yeah, good idea.
Well, those are all good ideas for expanding members of this committee as well. We've got that a little farther down the agenda, was what other groups should we be looking at to bring members in? Kelly, who else was on this committee that was not able to be here today?
Give me just a moment.
Yeah, I'm surprised we don't see Joel Bergsbergen from the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services here in town, and also the folks from the DHHS or DHDSHS.
DSHS.
So Stacy Miller at the Aging and Disability Northwest Regional Council, She is on our, she is a member, but she was unable to make it. Joel's a member. John, but Jacob is standing in for John. Jessica Lee is with Whatcom County. I thought she was going to be able to make it, but obviously she hasn't joined. So those are the people who have agreed to be members who are unable to attend today.
Do we have a representative from ARC still?
We don't. It's another group to reach out to.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
What group was that?
ARC.
Okay.
ARC.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a nice list of video training topics, and
Yep.
that's a project we can start on.
So next on the list is we have updated our elections website, and we've added some big icons. We've added more links, expanding additional information. And we wanted just to reach out to this group to see if you've had a chance to look over our website. Does this work for sight impaired? Is there enough contrast? Is there anything else that you guys want us to add?
I have a question, and maybe this was answered earlier. This is Cleo. I guess I ought to know this, but I don't, or I forgot. Is there a ballot that's real large print? I can't remember ever seeing one. Okay.
There's not one. Mm-mm.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Jacob again. That'll be something you guys want to probably get on so that there will be no litigations.
When we bought this system, our prior system didn't have availability either. There was no way to print out. The systems themselves don't have the capability of printing out a standard ballot in large print. And it ended up being, it's a very manual process for us to go in and take a ballot and enlarge it like onto 11 by 17, and then it has to be duplicated on the machine readable ballot. Again, the accessible voting units have the ability to get the font made bigger, so the accommodation for large print would be to use an AVU. It's one that I did some research on 2 or 3 years ago when we switched over to Clear Ballot. That was one of the questions I asked, was could we get large format ballots? Was it something that would come off the system? And the answer kind of is no. And I reached out to the other counties and I asked, is anybody providing large format ballots? And they're all doing it through their accessible voting unit, not through paper, not through large print paper.
And this is David again. And something to think about is that does inhibit people who either are not willing to go to your office or can't go to your office. Maybe they're physically unable to get there, emotionally unprepared to go into an office. There are lots of accessibility issues that we don't even know about because some people don't want to disclose that they have a disability. So it's important to think about all of the situations that might arise.
This is Jacob again. Also, to add to what David was saying, you have a lot of folks nowadays with concussions, things along those lines, who can't look at screens, who have a hard time not being able to utilize computers and stuff, and so they have to have some sort of a paper usage as well.
I'm not sure, this Cleo, who asked about feedback for the updated website. I would be happy to look at it. I've been in the process of moving, Kelly knows this, over the last month, and I still can't put up my computer because of damage from the movers. Long story. Hopefully by the end of May, I can have my computer up. So I would be happy to look at it and give you feedback. Who asked about that?
Stacy did. It was
Oh,
one of our agenda items.
Okay. All right. I'll be happy.
We've revamped it. We're trying to make it easier for people to move around, find what they're looking for, not have to click through, or at least why we added large icons for the primary places, so they did, because the font on the website isn't huge, and there's a lot of text, and I wanted to be able to highlight more of the key areas. The site itself, Cleo, I'm gonna mute you again for just a minute. The site itself, the template, the product that the county uses for the website has been tested for accessibility. So it's supposed to be accessible. We do know that there are some contrast problems with the font colors that were used, and I've, talked to the communications person about that in the past, because the color scheme for headers is teal and pale orange, and there's not enough contrast. And we've heard about that is a potential problem. But the rest of it is supposed to be, you're supposed to be able to use a machine reader with it and some of those things, and it's supposed to have the right tags and tell you that there's a picture and what it is and that kind of stuff. And but I'd be interested, if people haven't looked at it, you probably haven't, because we just finished reworking it. If you haven't had a chance to look at it recently, if you would go out and look at the website and give us feedback on how's it working.
What's the website URL?
Stacy, can you give him that?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. Or Kelly, would you put it in the chat, or do you want me to?
That's not going to help. That's not going to help David. He can't read this.
GoToMeeting is a little absurdly inaccessible to screen readers, but
I can email out the website address. Would that be helpful?
Yay,
No.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you want, I can go and look through the website with the tools that I use every day at work at Western, because I'm in the web technologies communications department at Western, and that's pretty much what I do every day. And I know about the W3's web consortium accessibility guidelines, so I can give lots of feedback. I've tortured Kim with feedback about stuff like this for years now, so
that'd be good.
Well, David, I can tell you what it is. Are you ready?
Yes.
It's Whatcom County,
all
one word, .us /1574/elections.
What does 1574 stand for?
It's just a page number. That's, if you went to the auditor page, it would be a different number.
Yeah.
That's why I don't have it memorized, David, is because it puts that weird number in there. I don't remember actually what the URL is.
Yeah, it's a bit obscure.
Can you repeat it? Repeat it again?
WhatcomCounty.us/1574/elections.
Thank you.
I said that so fast, I'm surprised you picked it up.
So Jacob in the chat asked the question, has anyone reached out to Olympia to see if there are options that they can supply the county for accessibility? Who in Olympia are you referring to, Jacob?
There's nobody that I know specific. I just would imagine that there would probably be some department that is looking to make sure that the voting access is accessible to all.
That's a really good point. And the governor did just start the Office of Equity on a state level, and I think there are implications that means that everybody who is a state institution is going to have to fall under the Office of Equity at the state level to comply with accessibility guidelines.
That
One
might
of
be
the
the office
reasons,
to start with.
if you look to the Secretary of State, who is responsible for elections, sorry, I'm finding the feedback from the phone challenging. You know, what they do in elections, I mean, there's a reason that we all have these committees. And the reason for that is what's actually required in statute says you need to have an accessible voting unit. And so now, I don't think only having an accessible voting unit makes the whole election process, accessible, but that's sort of the limit of, well, if you want people to be able to vote, you have to provide an accessible voting unit. They can come in, they can vote on that unit. And for all of the reasons that David mentioned, and we're aware of those, that doesn't solve the problem for lots of voters. I mean, simply getting into the county to and park and get in the building and whatever, it can be a challenge. So there's not, these committees sort of sprang out of what more do we need to do? Because simply having an accessible voting unit is not the end of the story. So there's not really, I mean, I think increasingly they are coming up with, and at the state level, they're coming up with groups to say, this is what you need to do to provide okay, sorry, I just muted Cam too. I'm getting all kinds of feedback. So I think, there are so the answer to your question, Jacob, is no, we haven't reached out specifically to any state agency at this point to look for solutions. The elections community has done it a bit in relation to voting and we've taken a look at what other counties have done and what our local agencies can provide. So I think that's a good idea, but we actually haven't done that.
Well, the reason I ask is that I know, we had as a disability community, we have had issues doing trying to get remote work and things along those lines before COVID, and all of a sudden COVID happened, and I swear it was like 2 weeks later, everything that we had been asking for decades came to pass. And the reason that I thought potentially the state might be able to come up with something or help, form a group of county-wide folks to come in and actually take a look at it is because of something as simple as like the pandemic inoculations. I myself personally ended up going through a drive-in inoculation clinic, which was amazing, and it was absolutely it was quick, it was fast, it had everything you needed. And if there were situations or things along those lines, people putting that kind of thought into voting, at the state level, potentially it could then trickle down to counties as well. And I would be absolutely willing to put some pen to paper on that if we could figure out who needed to be, whose tree needed to be shook.
I think that's great. This has been a really great discussion, and I want to be respectful of people's time. So if you're available to hang around for a little bit longer, we had a couple more agenda items, but if you needed to be off at 3:00, because we had scheduled this for an hour, we can stop here and schedule another meeting. So what is the desire of the group?
Well, I need to dive out because my 14-and-a-half-year-old is about to walk in the door and cause a bunch of noise. This is
Yep,
David
my son.
again.
This is Jacob. My son just showed up as well.
Okay.
So here's what we're going to do. Kelly's going to write up minutes from today's meeting. We're going to identify the work plan right now. A lot of it is related to videos. So we need to flesh out how we're going to do that kind of work and who we need to bring into it to make sure those videos are accessible. She's also captured the other ideas that are out there. And so maybe what we'll try and do is meet quarterly this year, and we'll pull all this together. We'll get it written up in minutes. We may start working on some of the work plan, and we'll reconvene in 3 months. Does that work for people?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And in the meantime, if you have a chance to go out and look at the revised website and give us some feedback, that would be helpful.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank
It's
you.
real.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diana.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.